He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole wide world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the major plan stealers in his hands. He's got the first time offenders in his hands. He's got the licensed real estate agent in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got a young dermatologist in his hands. He's got the bank loan officers in his hands. He's got the bad motorcycles in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands.
Well, hi there, colleagues, across town and around the globe. Here we are for a special edition of Witch Hunt with Paul Colby and the investigators. And you know who I am, Paul Colby. I've been around these parts for some time, and several of my most brilliant investigators came with me tonight so that we could tell you the truth about the stories behind the stories behind the stories, like we always do. But we're doing it on a very special day. This is February 29 in the year of our Lord 2024, and there only are leap year days like this every 4 years. So I would say it's auspicious that we're here tonight. When I say we or we're, I'm talking about me and the investigators, and let me introduce those people to you because they're the ones who get the stories when it's really hard to get the stories. The first investigator that you need to meet is Mr. Ward Robe. Ward has been around the block a few times. I think it's fair to say he's been around the neighborhood a few times, actually. He is a librarian in waiting at a museum of unnatural history.
Librarian in waiting, actually, I was in charge of, the library actually has a waiting room. And what happens is you have to transition from your street voice to silence. So the waiting room is kind of a buffer zone. And my job was to ensure that people lowered the decibel level to a certain degree before they were allowed into the library.
I did not know that. Thank you, Ward, for explaining that. I'll try to be more precise because I know you have said on more than one occasion that you are often misunderstood. Now, you are a consultant to the Society for Dinnerware Standards. That's right, isn't it?
Yes, but frankly, boss, there really hasn't been any changes in cutlery since the fork. The fork was finally finalized design in the 60s.
Yeah, I remember that.
And
in the 50s, I wasn't sure which one to use, the spoon or the knife.
Right. So since that time, I've had to move on, boss. But I'm a man of many talents.
You're an honorary member of the Galloping Moth tribe, as I understand it, right?
That is correct, boss. Although a little known fact about the Galloping Moth, with climate change, moths are their primary source of protein, and with climate change, the moths are dying out. So we're down to 22 members, and we're actually taking applications from Caucasians now.
Oh, so that's how you got in the back door,
right?
So to speak. So to speak. As for this misunderstanding that people have, I think it started with your famous work, The Life Expectancy of Herbivores. Is that right?
Well, actually, it was, again, probably because I tend to mumble, but it's actually the life expectancy of herbivores. And he was tragic.
That's a guy who couldn't get a wife. He wasn't attractive enough for.
Well, he looked a lot like me, so I'd like to think he was attractive. But sadly, he was.
Well, he was an engineer.
He was an engineer.
Yeah.
So, and when he'd go on dates, he would constantly want to bring up various ISO standards.
Now, look, you were. I'm pretty sure that you were an expert on animal husbandry. So I know what that's about. That's animals that you
Well, sadly, boss, that job never really took off. What happened is I wrote a book on marriage, and I got a lot of feedback from various wives that said their husbands were animals.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
So that somehow got transmogrified into animal husbandry.
Well, because you were saying, as I remember it, that husbands were kind of like saints, and these women were telling you that their husbands weren't.
Yeah, they were not. They were far from saints, which gives a whole new meaning to when the saints come marching in, because they kind of march into the divorce lawyer's office.
Okay, well, okay, but I have seen some instructions you wrote. One of those boxes I got from the department store where you do a little assembly yourself, and it's a paper on dealing with migraines. So I guess that's about headaches, right?
Well, again, because I rush my words together when I say migraines, what I actually meant was my grains, because I did a lot of genetic research back in my youth, and so I was able to establish some, for instance, one of my grains that I established is gluten-free wheat, which is, I think, is someday gluten-free wheat is going to take off.
And you are famous for an oatmeal, I think, the Pioneer Oats. I had some of those in my neighborhood. I understand that's. Now I'm beginning to understand why you had to have specific instructions for dealing with migraines, meaning your.
Right, and
the Pioneer Oats.
frankly, other scientists that specialize in grains are quite jealous of me, so they're trying to sully my reputation.
Against the Grains is the book you're talking about there, I guess.
Yeah, that's one of my many prolific. I'm a prolific writer as well, and that's one of my many books.
Okay, well, so you can see why I would want Ward to be on the show here. Ward has done a lot of work for me that we'll discuss in a minute, but another person that you may not know, well, you may know her by some of her books, but Rhonda Sandus, we originally met at a garage sale, right?
Yeah, you and I, we sure did, and we were both after the same garage, and I know you outbid me on it. So how is that garage doing, by the way?
I had to tear it down.
Oh,
no. It has some sort of an infestation, I guess is what they call it these days. But that's because I had come into a great deal of lighter fluid, just barrels and barrels of, and I thought that garage, well, anyway, you know.
Sounds like I dodged a bullet there. Okay.
Yeah. Now, after that garage sale, I started following you. I know that you taught impossible zoology when you were at Plump University.
Yes, it actually started out as improbable zoology. And I don't know if you've ever dealt with Gen Z, but the questions they come up with, they became impossible, so it became impossible zoology. And a fun fact is that we are also the same people behind the impossible, the burger, the hot dogs, the chicken, and excuse me, but little room here. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, all the we managed to replace all the zoo animals with plant-based alternatives.
Now, and another thing you did, I guess this has nothing to do with other species of life, but you discovered the planet Milton, and I understand that was by accident.
Oh, it was entirely by accident. I was outside. I was stargazing. You know, I got my big I have this extremely large telescope I like to use, and I was outside fitting my dog Milton for his Met Gala gown, and it turns out that fuchsia is not his color at all. So he kangaroo kicked me, and when I came to, I was looking up, and there was a star that nobody had ever seen before, and so I named it Milton in his honor.
Well,
who knew?
Another thing that you named, or I know it's going around, this meme, "Let's go random." It sounds sounds kind of antisocial.
It wasn't intended to be. It was actually an autocorrect mistake that I made, and but I was feeding it into an AI prompt, and so the memes just sort of became sentient on their own. It sort of snowballed from there, and it's a little troubling because I've been seeing a lot of those memes. They're nonsensical, and they keep ending up in political attack ads.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you brought some of this on yourself with some of your, I guess you'd call it harsh political nonfiction, like that book, Unleashing the Tyrant Within. Now, I understand that is you had that one, and also A New Leash on Life. Who is this popular with, this kind of book?
Well, surprisingly, with a lot of politicians. I see a lot of kind of autocratic types that are really, really into it. Not really what I intended, but you know, more tyrants, more money. You know what they say?
Yeah. Okay. What you intended? What did you intend when you wrote 30 is the new 40?
Oh, goodness. You know, we are all so tired. I don't know about you, but when I hit 35, I was so burnt out, I was ready to retire. And I see young people trying to retire at 25 and then start a family because they don't have time to do all of that, working 3-4 jobs. You know, you can't raise a family like that. So
on raising a family, I know there was a while that you stepped back from raising a family because you were living in a mall for
years. It was years. Unfortunately, I did try to get out. It was not at all my intent to live in that mall for years upon years. But the software went down on those directories, the you are here, here's where you're going. And every time I tried to make it out, it was like Indiana Jones, but I'd end up back at the Foot Locker. So there I was in the Foot Locker, growing old at the age of 35.
And you found out there were other people living in the mall. That's what you were telling me.
There were, in fact, a lot of other people who were in my same situation. Now, some of them had just been walking for a very, very long time. They started walking and they never stopped. But yeah, at least I was able to hook up with some of them, and at the Orange Julius and the taco place and whatnot, the food court. Now that kept us alive for a very that Sbarro pizza. Oh, mwah.
Yeah, I guess you didn't have to cook while you were there. One final question that I have for you: this new documentary film that you did about not needing a telescope to see which way the wind blows. I mean, most people wouldn't need a telescope.
Well, yes, that was another autocorrect situation, but it is also a tribute to my beloved dog Milton and the discovery that we made together. Oh, I love you, Milton. Mwah.
Okay. I think
if you're
I
watching,
understand.
and he is.
Okay. Well, I have a dog too that has his own cable company. He doesn't like mine. I have a third investigator with me tonight, and he came a long way, I think. Maxim M. Rydoff, you did come a long way, right?
I have come long way.
Okay. Now, you're the way that I first came across your work, you were lecturing on corruption in horticulture. And
I researched very hard. Very, very, very hard. We have no problems with nuclear plants. In fact, we have strong Russian culture of crashing any vectors or vermin that would wipe out our vegetables. You understand?
I think I understand. And is that why you started designing recreational furniture? I mean,
Yes, yes, one moment. At home, I like to ride my coffee table because it is like bed. Bed, you know.
solid.
So, yes.
Yes.
In fact, it's heirloom. Heirloom.
Yes,
Like
yes.
heirloom. And my father is creator of Russian IKEA. You say IKEA.
This is the one where you have to get 3 or 4 of your friends to
No,
help
no,
you
no, no,
assemble?
no, no, no. His children. His
Oh,
children.
okay, okay.
Children. They use diagram to weld the furniture on no supper in dining room.
Okay. Okay. One of your ventures, I don't want to call you a capitalist, but you are an entrepreneur. And one of your no.
No. I have
So-
no money.
So this new, I guess it's a project of yours, the Madaman Surveillance Company High Spy, where you have what I guess are peregrine falcons. They perch outside of the high stories of skyscrapers, and they are listening and watching.
In Moscow, I had program to trade injured bird, in like at low cost, right? You say flip, right? So if beak is broken, I rehab, they eat. If wing is broken,
Yeah.
I rehab to fly again.
So
If tail is broken, I rehab them to shit on arm, to shit on building, to shit on car again.
and so they're sort of in disguise when they're spying on corporate boardroom proceedings. Am I right?
End of day,
Are they machines or are they actually birds? I mean, you're saying you repair a lot of the parts. I mean, we would call that an android or
just point.
just
Just
bird?
point. At
Just
end of
bird.
day, they report on neighbor.
Okay, now you have another project. You, as I understand it, you read the book by that nautical guy, Sailor Twift, saying that all of the bayous in the country are full of water, and that's just not very creative. So
We do not want this bayou diversity. No. In Moscow, we have one bayou. Everyone sit on bank. We have barbecue. We sing Russian anthem.
but
Then, every 6 months, FSB, FSB, they come to dump body of politician who fall through window.
So let's just talk about a few of your prototype bios. I guess the one Gozinya bio is full of lighter fluid. That was and it was the project was done by some high school students, as I understand. Do they work for you?
They don't work.
They don't work.
They work for community.
How about this one, the Sucker Carlson bio? That's full of beer foam. Can you explain that?
Well, before special military operation, in Ukraine, we bring child birthday party to McDonald's. Okay,
Yeah. Been there, done
So,
that.
child, he get Happy Meal. It is oil drum with secret surprise from Bayou. Maybe nuclear waste, maybe Jimmy Hoffa, always good time.
Okay, there's another one here. This one is in Texas. The diesel bio is apparently full of fracking wastewater. You
Fracking.
are responsible for that also.
Fracking. Yes, my whole family, we love fracking.
Now, when you go into these bio areas, don't you first have to drain the bio of all of the water that was in it first?
We love to see the bottom of the bayou.
What do you see down at the bottom of the bayou?
Our Russian diet, old politician.
Okay. So, and then you fill it back up with whatever you're filling the bio with.
Da.
And so I was able to get a picture of the Presto biofiller that you're using. It looks like a briefcase or something, an oddly shaped briefcase.
You go to sports game, you have t-shirt shooter, we have potato shooter. We fill bayou.
And of course now this Presto biofiller is probably a little larger than the potato.
We have maximum caliber potato.
Okay, awfully big potatoes is what he's saying, I guess. But now I don't want to take this too far, but another of your projects, and when I say too far, I mean almost all of the factions in American politics are far these days. But you're studying voting machines, and you've come up with some radical concepts. I mean, you're asking whether certain people are really voters and whether certain voters are really people.
Da. I see people with trained actors, trained to look like robots, trained to look like people, trained to look like voters, okay? So I go Idaho, I see potato, I see conference. You send me Moscow, Idaho. You think Wyoming, I go Moscow, Idaho.
Okay. Well, thanks for explaining that. I suspected that some of our voting results did look a little fishy. I mean, fishy. I mean, you'd only find that in a bio, right? Anyway, look, you're saying to yourself, we haven't seen these people on TV in a while, and that's true. But my folks have been, they've been very busy the whole time that we haven't been seeing you. For example, you remember last fall, I sent all of you out to look at some of the fall festivals, I guess we'll call you. I sent you to the Burning Tire Festival, right?
Yeah. I found festival because I smell smoke, you know, I hear Deep Purple, and so I hear them singing Smoke Underwater.
Okay. And I thought you found it because you used Robert's Rules of Odor, a little guidebook for how you find things by your sense of smell, but...
I wrap potato.
Yeah, I read your report. I just didn't understand. Now, Rhonda, you went to the Dumb and Dumpster Fire Festival, right?
Yeah, I sure did. Well, it was on an island, right? And we were promised all these great amenities. All there was a couple of cheese sandwiches and a dumpster. And it turned out that everyone ended up having a great time because most of the people there were throwing their documents into the fire because there were nowhere near enough toilets to flush them.
And speaking of toilets, I heard a similar story from Ward. Ward went to the, I don't know what Lauren called it, Lust Weekend or something. That's the picture I saw. But they wouldn't let you in. Is that right?
Well, sadly, boss, it's a long story, but I went in. It's a clothing optional event, as you know, and there's a sign that says no snacks allowed. So I went in naked, and Lauren looked at me and said, well, that's not a meal, that's a snack. So I had to go back out and put on a raincoat and come back in, and sadly, I didn't get to do any fracking all weekend.
Okay. That was one of the things. The other thing, I had read the story about in Massachusetts and Virginia, I believe it was, police discovered a $600 an hour brothel ring, and I asked my investigators, could you go find out more about this? Because the first thing, and I remember asking Maxim about this, what do you get for $600 an hour?
This is another state secret. You can only...
Oh, I guess I'd pay $600 for that also. You know, Ward, I also asked if you could get a list of the famous doctors and lawyers and people like that who were going to this brothel service.
That's correct, boss. And you're gonna be surprised. I'm gonna give you some names. You're gonna be surprised when you hear these.
Oh, I can't believe it. Rhonda, I don't remember what I asked you to look for, but what did you come up with?
About $1,200.
Okay. Oh, I remember I couldn't get in touch for a long time.
Well, I was busy.
My investigators also, while we were off the air, a lot of them, not just these three, they were deeply absorbed with their charity work. And they all have different interests. Like, for example, Ward, I know that you work for a group called the Upstream Team.
That's correct, boss.
And they are helping fish out of water.
Yeah, and again, I have a subspecialty because of my background with both moths and grain. My specialty is dealing with fish that don't know how to swim. You'd be surprised how many fish.
I would be.
Yeah.
I would be surprised.
It's a common myth that all fish can swim.
Rhonda, you work with a society or a group, I don't know if you call them a society, called the Street Crossers. Now what is that all about?
Well, so we were having some issues. I was getting phone calls that there were people stopping at stop signs and then just sitting there because they had no further instruction, you know. So they didn't realize that, yeah.
In an urban area, you would have a stop sign and a green light and...
Exactly. And so they didn't realize that after a brief period of sitting at the stop sign, you're supposed to go again. So we're getting these phone calls, and so I started this initiative. I put up QR codes on these stop signs so you can scan it and get to the app that's going to tell you, you know, oh, you're supposed to go again. Now, it has hit a couple of glitches in that we have had to add a second QR code informing people not to download apps while you're trying to drive either. So we won't discuss how we landed on that.
Okay. Now, Maxim, you have donated time. I know you say you don't have any money as such, but you've been working with a group called Eat Me. And as I understand it, this is because with inflation and everything, people, instead of going to the grocery store, they want to know if there's something around the house they can eat.
I have borscht from babushka.
You do?
I have.
Yeah. I mean, now, take the example of a mouse. I knew a lady, she was asking me, and I'm not an expert, she said, I have a mouse here that I'm not using. Can I eat it?
Is this city mouse? City mouse? Country mouse?
Oh, I think it's a Mickey or something. It's
Is this Stalinist mouse or Maoist mouse?
yeah. It is.
City mouse.
Okay. Yes, that's the one.
Okay. Shh.
Okay.
More state
Well, we have a lot more to eat these days because things are getting better. But let me just go shift gears here. We normally talk about things in the news, so I would like to talk about like the presidential candidates and Congress and the Supreme Court, maybe our big state of Texas, maybe business, maybe even the Super Bowl, if we have time to get to all of these. So, presidency, first thing. The main candidate that everybody talks about, because he's talking about himself all the time, would be your ex-president who says he's more popular than Taylor Swift, who's more popular than Jesus. I'm not sure that it all falls together, but let me tell you something about deep fakes, because, you know, people think in terms of someone like Taylor Swift when they think about deep fakes, but it was actually Donald Trump who was portrayed in what we now know to be a fake, because in this video that went viral, he is seen going to a library and donating things to charity, and I mean, very unnatural, being civil.
Like doing yoga. I saw he was supposedly doing hot yoga, and I knew it was a fake because that was very, very clearly Kylie Jenner's butt in the yoga pants and not Donald Trump's.
I guess I didn't see that.
Boy, but that's a visual I don't want, is Donald Trump in yoga pants.
Donald Trump is, of course, leading in trolls. According to the polls, he's leading in trolls. He also is calling a lot of people by name. And one of the candidates, Nikki Haley, he has been calling her a bird brain. I saw recently a very interesting paper in a scientific quarterly that I get on ornithology and mythology that says some birds have greater cranial capacity than certain ex-presidents. So I don't know, when he was calling somebody a bird brain, maybe that was not an underhanded compliment, huh? Maybe. Anyway, Trump does seem to have a game plan, and that is that every time he's in court, which seems like, you know, most days of the week, he has a press conference after he's in court. Have y'all been going to some of those? I asked you if you had time to, but I know that's a lot to keep up with.
To be honest, boss, it's very high risk for me to go to either a police station or a courtroom. So, you know, with that whole misunderstanding that resulted in the restraining order, et cetera, et cetera. So I need to avoid that.
Right. You know, it came up the other day. I'm trying to put two and two together. I'm sort of thinking while I'm talking here, but after there was one of the judgments against him, Trump was saying he had plenty of liquid assets. So if you were filling up bios with something other than water, then maybe, I mean, was somebody pumping off the water that, you know, this liquid asset that...
Yes. I hear pumping off is a very frequent problem with American politicians.
Okay, yes, okay. Well, let's make...
This is what they pay secret plans for people in...
Yeah, at the festival I attended... Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
At the festival I attended, there was a lot of pumping off going on. So.
Okay, well, you know, so that makes me think a lot about Nikki Haley, because she stumbled. That's not exactly the same as what we're talking about, but it's kind of like pumping. When she was asked about the causes for the Civil War, she gave a bunch of weird answers, and this is why I think she's slipping in the polls now. For example, she said that the real reason for the Civil War, the first thing she said, the question of restricting motorcycle traffic in parts of Wyoming. Now, Ward, you told me that you invented the motorcycle somewhere around 1911.
Well, that's correct, boss. But
So that's not 1861, 62, 63.
well, of course, the whole concept of time is fluid. If you go back to quantum mechanics, what is time? But yes, as far as mere mortals are concerned, I invented it in 1911.
I still don't think we had a motorcycle traffic problem in the mid 1800s. Now, then she said the Civil War was really fought over the question of whether there really is a Santa Claus. So I'm sure you've studied that from your cultural vantage point.
My thinking is that this Ambassador Haley, she's not playing three-dimensional checkers like Trump.
Okay. Normally we say chess, but I guess
Net.
no.
Net.
Yeah, checker, yes, exchequer. Anyway, she had some other really silly answers, so that's why she's stumbling. Now, President Biden would like to get reelected, but a lot of people, up until recently anyway, they were saying that Biden is underwater. In fact, they even had, Rhonda, you told me this, I didn't believe you when you said this, but you said they actually had divers going down there by the beach house looking for Biden because he wasn't on TV very much.
Yeah, well, they actually found nothing. They did find some things that may or may not have come from Mar-a-Lago, but that's another story for another time. What they did find out was that someone misunderstood. Biden is actually over water. He's totally over it. He has switched entirely to sports drinks and energy drinks, which I found very interesting.
Okay, that explains a lot, but I think one of the reasons that people were saying he's underwater is because the economy up until recently has looked pretty bad, and a lot of people were telling their sob stories about how bad things were for them. I saw a guy with a sign on the street the other day who was willing to repair helicopters for food, so there's people out there that think they were suffering. I know in your worldview, they're not really suffering because
my helicopters, they do not need, my food does not need helicopters.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I guess, but Biden. Is that what I'm trying to say?
I'm only here because you ask.
Okay. Anyway, Biden is kind of an old guy, but he's been turning the tables on his critics lately. I know I got a fundraising letter the other day in which Biden is, or somebody speaking for Biden, it was Bob Nadeau, whoever that is, he was saying that Biden actually knew some of the framers of the Constitution, so maybe Biden, instead of the Supreme Court, should be saying what those people really meant. Because he used to have, I guess he had beer foam with them before. I mean, they used to drink things straight out of the bio. That's what I understand. Anyway, there was that new special counsel report, not the same special counsel that's going after Donald Trump, the one that's going after Biden. They released a report saying that they had found remnants of a stove in that beach house. I guess because the inference is that Biden was trying to cook something up about Trump. I guess that's how it goes. Let's talk about, and another candidate. I guess I should mention him. I was about to leave him out. A younger Kennedy is running, and so I heard his campaign theme the other day, ask Nut what your country can do to you, or something. Congress was looking for a speaker for a long time. In fact, I think they were having so much trouble finding a speaker that they decided instead maybe they should be looking for a sneaker of the House, because, you know, footwear deals are very big in the sporting world and so forth. Finally, though...
Now, I heard that they were looking for a new speaker from the back of a van, because someone told them they could find one real easily from the back of the van. Now, I think somebody may be confused there, but we don't know. We don't know.
Well, one thing I do know, they wanted to find a speaker who could, first of all, speak for the far-right loons. I don't know if that's a category or not, and speak also to the merely spineless Republicans, and then also speak to the remaining few conservatives. So they were going to go for a guy with 3 heads, but instead they settled for a guy with glasses.
I personally think they should elect, in the interest of bipartisanship, I think they should elect Willa Biden as the Speaker of the House, because she's quite the expert at getting rid of vermin from various places in the White House.
All right. George Santos is a person, now that you mention vermin, who he's a celebrity now on X. You may not have noticed, I mean, if you try to stay away from social media, that Elon Musk changed the name of Twitter to X, EX, and it's now a home for celebrities that used to be in power. X. I kind of like that. And George Santos, you know, they say he lost a seat in Congress. Apparently, some guy found it when they were cleaning up, and there was a press conference. I saw it the other day. It was very interesting. I said, this is definitely Santos' chair, number 2. I don't know what number 1 was.
He's in box in back of van.
With the new speaker. With the new speaker, it all makes sense now. Look, it's all coming together.
Well, it also explains why the Republicans finally decided to sack Border Bill, with whom they had worked for God knows how long, but they said, well, not necessary now, because I guess they made somebody back down.
Well, plus what I hear, boss, is he wasn't following border. There's an ISO standard, 97,000 on border security, and he just wasn't following the ISO standard on border security.
He was he was like on his own mission, so to speak.
Yeah, he was, you know.
He wasn't.
He had his own agenda.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. That's Congress for you. What the Supremes? Now the Supremes, they have been making some big changes. For example, they just set a new policy saying you can't overturn any precedent that's set in law until after 50 years. But that's kind of like closing the barn door after the rooster left. Is that how that goes?
I think its yacht has been given to, you know, member of 9. The yacht has left yard, and person is on deck.
That's pretty nautical. I guess Sailor Twift is the one who first popularized that. The other thing is, the Supreme Court has been asked to decide whether Trump incited an insurrection. And I guess
this is clearly set up for my colleague, Comrade.
Well, he actually did incite, and mostly in certain parts of well, right here in Houston. There were many erections incited.
Well,
by
I
Donald Trump.
thought that was the basis for Lauren's Lust Festival that I asked you to attend.
Yeah, there was. I mean, not that I noticed that sort of thing, but I think there was quite a bit of. Lauren is quite good at inciting erections herself. So.
Okay, all right.
Not that I know personally, boss.
Right. So that's the president's race, the congressional fiasco, the Supreme Court sitting on the fence. But how about Texas? Now, in Texas, as you know, just like Florida, when it was daylight savings, they set the clocks back to 1950, 55, 56, something like that. And I get confused sometimes trying to remember what year it is since we are living here in Texas. But we're living in Texas where there are a lot of new laws. Y'all probably wrote some of these. I mean, I know you have friends in the process, but I am this one about no drag shows in libraries after 5 p.m. I mean,
well, as my experience as the waiting room librarian shows, we strictly want all those shows to be before 5 p.m. where the children can attend.
Tell me about there's a law now that says stolen dinosaur bones can't be transported in electric vehicles. So they want all of the fossils to be transported with fossil fuel-based vehicles.
I have heard this.
Okay, if you've heard it, it must be true.
You are allowed, though, to, if you build an ark and put it on a bayou, you are, not only can you transport dinosaur bones, but according to Speaker Mike Johnson, you can actually transport live dinosaurs down the bayou.
Well, there's only 6 or 7 of those left.
And Mitch McConnell, he is retiring.
Yeah. Well,
So it's 5. You
yeah.
are limited to 5.
Okay, well, I can't argue with you there. You're probably right. You know, the Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton, has been a big advocate for luxury prisons. And I suppose that's partly because he's headed that way. But they're building a new one. You know, the governor decided that we would have, there's an old park that he wanted to turn into a base. But I think that's a cover story because I know they're already building the new luxury prison. And I know that Donald Trump has reservations. Ken Paxton does. I was just visiting the facility the other day. They call it the vilification. They have terrific room service there. And I visited the Menendez Hall, the Menendez Hall, where they already have some of the hors d'oeuvres for sale. And they say some of these things came from bayous near Texas, but y'all haven't visited yet, have you?
No.
Okay, you have to be invited.
I have been to gift shop. They have many commemorative spoons. I put in bayou.
Okay.
Entire bayou full of utensil.
Well, let me tell you something here. We used to have razor wire in certain rivers, you know, here in Texas on the border. As a matter of fact, it turns out that the reason we had these razor wire, it was a kind of a gimmick to restart the economy. There used to be a booming business in razor wire in Texas, but I understand that lately Governor Abbott has been authorizing the purchase of millions of dollars worth of piranhas, which Well, I mean, he says they're not being used for, for that river.
Well, he also managed to divert all the razors by accident, and this is why Ted Cruz has been looking, let's just say, the way he does now.
That explains a lot.
I've also heard, boss, that they've figured out a way to defeat the piranhas. What they do is they take large potatoes and they carve them into what looks like Taylor Swift, and they toss them in the bayou, and then the piranhas go crazy because they're actually closet Swifties. But my Russian colleague may know better.
You haven't found any piranhas when you refill these bayous with like lighter fluid and beer foam and...
I have, because they want autograph a great star.
Okay,
See,
fabulous.
this is why you pay us the funny bucks, boss.
Yeah,
Right here, right here.
I understand now. You in China right now, as if things in Texas weren't bad enough, they're playing up the divisions of thinking people and others in Texas, and they're saying that we're on the verge of a civil war. In fact, I read one of these official reports from the English language version of the official Chinese reporting service talking about it, and I was going to dismiss this as just a bunch of silly exaggerations, but it turns out that in Texas already there is advanced planning for a secession, and that Texas, yeah, we've got a chart right there, Texas would become not one state that seceded, but 5 new states. Now, they've named these states Mulvey, Ralph, Pinto, Brewski, and Yammer. I guess they're naming it, are these some of the famous people in the history you read?
Brewski is what I have my trolls. They're pushing this, this is my plan.
And Yammer, I think you said that the way you see it now, that Let's Go Random is just a bunch of yammer.
Yes, it is. Yammer, it's yabber, it's gahoozle, what? We don't,
yeah,
whatever you want to call it, but it's a whole lot of nonsense doing this.
Well,
down in southeast Texas.
I guess you're happy, Ward, that they named one of the new states after your favorite bean, the pinto, huh?
Yeah, as of course I did invent a modified pinto bean, so it's called a Mustang bean.
Yeah, I know, because you had your crop developments that
right.
That
all done with no subsidies from taxpayers, I'll have you know.
I'm glad to hear that. Now, business. Let me just. Of course, there are rodeo clowns this year at the Houston Rodeo that are, I understand, all politicians because they wanted to inject some humor. Let me say a couple of words here about, first of all, business, because we hear about the problems of artificial intelligence quite a lot, but what we don't hear is that big tech has been working on artificial ignorance, which may explain some of the political landscape that we see around these parts today. But not only that, there was a hearing in Congress, I watched this, where they were all challenged about an environment which is abuser-friendly on the big tech side. But some of the companies who are not tech companies, they're supposed to be highly technical, like Bo Wing, Bo Wing, they have been asked to develop some new scary rides for Disneyland. I think the whole idea about these scary rides is that you have no idea what's about to happen. Like, a door plug will fly off, or in a political context, I guess you're campaigning for the presidency and suddenly the floor falls out from under your campaign.
As they say, the wings, they fall off.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you repair them.
Yes.
Your birds, some of them have artificial wings. The Super Bowl, I guess we have to say something about it. Now, I know you didn't watch the Super
No,
Bowl.
because the Marjorie Taylor Greene Slackers didn't make the Super Bowl. So if they're not in it, and of course that was a Democratic conspiracy to keep them out of the Super Bowl. So
Yeah,
I refuse to support the NFL because Taylor Swift is in it.
I understand that. Now, one thing I noticed this year, to save money on halftime, they have the people who lead you to your seat, they call them the ushers. Well, to save money, instead of getting an exciting pop act, they asked the ushers to entertain at halftime. I thought that was a good touch. Now, Donald Trump, always wanting to compete.
If you don't mind me interrupting, boss, not only did I watch the Super Bowl, I actually attended it. I was able to get free tickets. You know that little conference you sent me to?
Yeah.
Yeah, we won't talk about how I got the free tickets. However, I was in a box seat, and besides Usher, they had a little something. It was a preview of Lin-Manuel Bonanza's latest musical. It's about the referees, the history of the referees, and it's called Parlay. And they had, oh my God, the best number in it was, well, how did it go? So the big finale was Somebody Call Magnum, because that was P.I. And it's all about the shady calls over the years. I can't wait. Broadway next month, I will be there.
Okay, and I guess I'm footing the bill for.
Yes, you will be.
Okay,
I will.
okay,
I will
thanks.
send you my
Okay.
my expense sheet.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Well,
in
like
advance.
I say, this year we saw a Super Bowl that had a bunch of weird events. So those are all being talked about, on the sports channels right now. But I always like the commercials. For example, this year they had one about getting your dog a separate cable TV. Well, I don't know what he's doing. My dog already has one. And then there's a famous book about not being a caterpillar, which I think, your moth tribe friends might be able to explain that. And then a real insight was the commercial where you can buy partisan legislation. And it struck me that explains a whole lot if you can buy partisan legislation from this lobbying firm that had enough money to afford a Super Bowl commercial, which, as you know, can be quite expensive.
And I've heard, boss, that they're with the new trend towards surge pricing, depending on how close you are to a government shutdown, the price for your bipartisan legislation will actually increase.
That's right. And everything is increasing in intensity and sometimes price and sometimes complexity of explanation. But it's up to people like us, Paul Colby and the investigators, to bring you the real story when what you get fed on television and on the radio and in the newspaper is just a hint of what is actually going on. So we were happy to be here, and we're glad that you can be wherever it is you are and still be here watching us, watching you.